Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another video here today, and we are recapping NFL Week 1 of the NFL season 2024. Man, it's good to be back. Football was awesome this week, this weekend. And even though some games are, felt like more duds, there were still so many more interesting storylines and so many interesting, player dynamics that we get to learn. And honestly, this season, even though the scores don't show you that they're all amazing or exciting, I think was one of the most interesting week ones I've ever seen. That includes back in my 2011 to 2013, 2014 days of me watching football. So I'm very excited to talk about these games and how each of these players did and what the outlooks of these games kind of look like going forward. I love this. Let's get started right into the video after you like, subscribe, and comment suggestions for future videos below. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So I'm going to keep this very simple. It's going to be kind of a quick thoughts about what I saw and kind of maybe some general player stats. This will go into effect of how I kind of see some of the teams for my power ranking changes. Go see that video if you have not already. Power rankings going into NFL Week 1. So, Ravens, Chiefs. Chiefs won 27-20 in a very good matchup. The big storyline pretty much was Lamar Jackson not having fucking time. So, he's either running or quick chuck down passes. Derrick Henry got his first touchdown. Amazing. But Patrick Mahomes, man, I mean, he was just so fucking good. He's just 291 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, whatever. Pacheco didn't get a whole lot on the ground because it was pretty much a pass-heavy game for both teams. Rashi, clearly the guy there. I'll kind of, I guess I can make this a little bit bigger, and I can make myself a little bit smaller. That way you guys can see this shit. But Rashi, still the clear guy there. We'll see what will happen when Hollywood Brown comes back. Xavier Worthy, I think it's very interesting. He got 2 touchdowns, 1 on an in-around pass on the rushing and receiving 1 good breakaway touchdown. Pretty good. Travis Kelce wasn't really utilized, so whatever. Other than that, defense is just really good at putting pressure on Lamar. That's kind of the story there. I think that there's truth to Xavier Worthy doing well here, and I think there's also a lie. Obviously, with 2 very big plays, it's going to pad the stats. I think that Xavier Worthy is going to pan out to be something like another tier above a Gabe Davis type of player. We kind of saw that from Brian Thomas Jr. this week as well. We'll talk about him. Xavier Worthy is going to be more of a deep route type of guy. He's got the speed and he's got the agility. He really does. I'm just curious when he's doing more routes, especially when Hollywood Brown comes back, how does he fit in that mold? And how often is that really going to become open, especially with safeties covering him? It's going to be very curious. I think he's going to have a lot of dynamics to the offense, which is exciting. So I think he's going to have an easy place no matter where he ends up landing in the receiving core. But that's kind of my initial thoughts about Xavier Worthy. Let's talk about the Ravens now. Derrick Henry, he's playing the role that we thought he was. No big deal. Justice Hill did outsnap him, though, interestingly enough. But he is the clear receiving back. Justice Hill got, I think, about 8 targets, 6 receptions for 52 yards. Not too bad. Honestly, I know some people don't like Justice Hill. I think, for one, he's the clear number 1 guy after Derrick Henry in this running back offense. But 2, he's getting some of the receptions. So in PPR leagues, 100% take him if you dare. Lamar Jackson, though, he's going to run around a lot because this O-line really sold him a lot. Likely another big fucking storyline. Mark Andrews really, he outsnapped Likely, but unfortunately, Likely just was in those bigger plays, and he just got more of the looks there, and Lamar Jackson didn't have a whole lot of time, and Likely was there. Mark Andrews was blocking. It kind of turned into a Likely game, and I think we gotta take into effect that this is a 2 tight end offense. No matter how you look at it, Mark Andrews is going to get the love, but this is a 2 tight end offense. This is going to be a Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers offense. 100%, no doubt in my mind. Nelson Aguilar will get in there every now and then. Rashad Bateman will get some love. But those 4 guys, or those 3 guys, and the running back will always get some love here. So pretty good game. I don't fear for the Ravens. I still think they look fine. Chiefs, they're obviously Super Bowl contenders. All right, Packers and Eagles. So RIP Love. He's out for a few weeks. Rest up. Hope you get better. It's rough. It is really rough, especially when the Packers have such a good outlook for the season. Now they have Malik Willis coming in, and while I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, it doesn't bode well for them in future games, especially with some tough matchups coming up. Either way, very, very good game. Eagles, Saquon Barkley in this running game is so much better than anybody could have given him credit for. This is how you introduce a new offense. And if I had doubts about the Eagles coming in, heck, I rated them 3rd in their division. And I am pretty much put in my place that I will very well could be wrong. Now, where I'm going to say I might not be wrong is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts did all right. number one, let's go ahead and say that he did all right. There's nothing here that's going to be me saying Jalen Hurts did amazing. There's nothing here saying helping support that I don't dislike Jalen Hurts. This is a run-first team, and Jalen Hurts just has the big skill of getting the ball downfield. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, easily going to help him out in this. He just did not look the most comfortable. He didn't look like he was always in control. It felt like he really relied on Saquon, A.J. Brown. He really relied on routes getting open, which obviously you should for a receiver. That's not me doubting him. But Jalen Hurts, I'm curious to see how much he's going to pan out and how much because his O-line also gives him a fuck ton of time. The defense for the Packers is still fairly good. So it's kind of curious how this all panned out. Otherwise, this offense is pretty much what we thought it was. The defense for the Eagles was really suffocating, but weirdly enough, not in the secondary. I say weirdly enough, but I kind of expected that. Jordan Love, before the injury, you can kind of debate. It's 17 for 34, 260 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's a fine game. I think it's a Jordan Love type game. I think he needed to have a better completion percentage. Otherwise, whatever. Josh Jacobs, really efficient, really going to be good for this offense in the run game. Jaden Reed had a fucking amazing game, big breakout. He's obviously the number one in this team, with Dobbs getting a lot of love. Christian Watson getting in there quite a bit too. So I love to see it. Tucker Kraft getting a little bit of the catches too. Again, there's not really be much stats, but obviously from the secondary, Jair Alexander starts off the season right, and Xavier McKinney does too. This secondary is going to be really good. The defensive line for the Packers is nothing to sneeze at too. Two very impressive teams. I think they'll just have to hold out for Jordan Love and hope that Malik Willis can at least maybe split if he misses 4 games. They need to keep him healthy though. MCL sprain, I believe it was, so he'll be out for like 4 weeks. So I think they'll be fine, but it's going to be a tough season without him. Panthers and Saints. Oh, gosh. Okay, so this is going to be another bad take. I said the Panthers are going to have a better record than the Saints, and this is not starting off well. With that said, I want to pump the brakes. This was a tough game. This was a tough game for the Panthers. I think they'll get better. Genuinely, this is kind of like to me about the Cardinals last year. And obviously Kyler was not there the first beginning of the season last year. But I think the Panthers will have a slow turnaround around week 8, 9, 10, 11-ish. That kind of range where they're clearly out of the playoffs. There's no chance for that. But they are then starting to pick up steam with Bryce Young. I think is not as bad as he's seeming. I just don't think he's going to be as good as CJ Stroud or anything like that. I think he's going to be like a prototypical what we've seen from Trevor Lawrence. I want to say even probably less than Trevor Lawrence at this rate. He has decent weapons. His offensive line is one of the worst of the league, and if it's not the worst, more of the worst defenses in the league, if not the worst. It's kind of crazy. Saints are honestly more suffocating of an offense than I give them credit for. As much as I don't like Derek Carr nowadays, I think that at the very least he produces a very suffocating game against defenses. Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams are suffocating running backs to play against, and with Derek Carr and the weapons he has so much versatility, but it's not sustainable against great teams. I've realized the Saints scheme really well against bad teams, or at least middle tier teams, like outside the top 10, outside the top 12, maybe even. The Saints scheme really well around them and compete very well because their defense is really good. Their offense is just very suffocating to get through, and Derek Carr just hauls the ball fucking up in the air. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Looking at the stats, I mean, obviously I don't like always playing the story for it. Bryce Young did not do very fucking good. Running backs as a result didn't get anything. Thielen, still the main target. It looks like Deontay Johnson, I think, will slowly fit in that role. Derek Carr, though, again, he doesn't really have to do much of this, but he did. He came out there, did whatever, and suffocating running backs. Taysom Hill even he kind of add there. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is going to be a very impressive component in this offense. So very, very interesting. Chris Olave will get the love over time, but Rashid Shaheed might be worth the look for anybody looking into it. But yeah, I mean, I know it's against the Panthers O-line, but still, the Saints, they're showing me up a little bit. I'm going to give them more respect. Vikings-Giants, probably one of the more boring games, but I think had interesting consequences. Sam Darnold, for one, did not look bad at all. I think we're actually in for a decent season, almost to the level of like Jake Browning last year for the Bengals, of like this quarterback can work in this offense and it can show these type of games. Now, it's against the Giants, so I want that to be clear. But it seemed like Sam Darnold was comfortable. It didn't seem like he was too much out of his element. So it looks like he's prepared for this. I'm very curious. I'm rooting for Sam Darnold to do well. I like seeing quarterbacks who don't get the highlight do well. So we'll see. So I'm rooting for the Vikings in this case. Aaron Jones. Was I wrong about Aaron Jones? A little bit, possibly. I think it's going to be a really telling story once we see some better defenses and see how Aaron Jones really fits in that, and if he can last the whole season. Just purely kind of my thoughts right there. Justin Jefferson, nothing surprised there. Jordan Addison has a minor injury. He'll be back soon. The defense for the Vikings is very good. Defensive line, they can get cooked over the top if they are not careful. Daniel Jones is shit, I guess. Devin Singletary is the clear workhorse in the running back lead if they can ever keep a lead. So we'll see if that happens. Malik Neighbors actually looked very, very good. I think that he should be more of a talked about topic, even though he kind of is. So we'll see how Malik Neighbors fits in this offense a lot more. He's obviously number one guy. Wan'Dale is there for the targets and easy passes. Darius Slayton, I don't know how he's going to fit in long term because Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson feel like the two guys working with Daniel Jones. We'll see how the tight ends also fit because I thought they would be more of a component in this offense. Defense for the Giants is going to come through the run blocking. Sorry, run defense. Versus the run off or the pass offense. Pass defense. Holy fucking shit, I can't talk. Either way, Giants are not amazing, but we'll see how they go. Whoops, no, don't want to see my opera. Patriots and Bengals. It happens every year. The Bengals just suck for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Hell, I started the Chiefs defense against the Bengals this week, or I am going to, or offense. So I don't know if the Bengals are really going to do that well, but we'll talk about them real quick. Joe Burrow. At the very least, this is one of the, at least not atrocious starts. It just, the offense didn't get anything going. They didn't lose steam, but they didn't gain anything. So, like, it was very weird. Zach Moss actually looked pretty good. Chase Brown, that duo could be very, very good for this team. So I actually think my expectations have been heightened. So we'll see how they do long term. Joe Burrow, I think, will be fine. Jamar Chase, like, everybody did well. It just seemed like they just never got anything going. It felt like they did well one play. 5 plays later, did well again. 5 plays later, they did well again. And it's like, okay, there's no steam. There's no progression. They did well. Boom. 4 plays, they didn't do anything, or whatever. Their defense is not amazing or not great. It's not awful, but it's not great. Patriots, one thing I'll give them, they have a damn good defense, and that could be into the consideration of why the Bengals didn't do very well. But they should be able to compete against this fucking offense, especially when you're letting Ramondre Stevenson in the offensive line of the New England Patriots rush for 120 yards and a touchdown. Like Ramondre, I think he's good. I don't think he's 120 yards and a touchdown good. So, Jacoby Brissett, he didn't have anything very impressive, so very good on the Bengals, but they got beat in the fucking run game. So, I don't know. I mean, you couldn't tell anything in this offense for the receivers here because it wasn't a receiving game at all. Honestly, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a run game for these Patriots teams. Now, it's going to be hard to do that when they play good teams. We'll see, though. Again, suffocating defense. Keon White, honestly, got 2.5 sacks, but otherwise they just put a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow, who still doesn't have the best O-line in the world. Otherwise, again, kind of looking at the outlooks here, nothing has changed too much other than, so like Packers, I think Packers and Eagles still going to be fine. Panthers, bottom of the barrel. Saints will kind of compete for that divisional spot. Vikings, they'll be 7-10 track record. Giants will be one of the worst teams. Patriots will be one of the worst teams still. Nothing's really changed there, but I think they'll be the upper tier of the final 3 or 4 teams. The Bengals, they'll be fine. They'll be like 10-7 by the end of the season. Justin Fields with the Steelers didn't look great, but he didn't look awful either. So I'm curious how him and Russell Wilson will actually look. So I think we're going to get another game for Justin Fields. So I'm curious, once we get 2 games with Justin Fields and then 2 games with Russell Wilson, I'm curious how those game plans are going to kind of change and how, if they do not change, how each one kind of performs in that offense. Run game seems fine. They've been utilizing it. Jaylen Warren's much less utilized nowadays. Najee Harris was the clear front runner here. Which is very, very curious. George Pickens, the number 1 receiver by far. Pat Freiermuth is being used. I think he's injured, but I think he may be back soon. Defense for the Steelers obviously is one of the best things in the league. One of the best defensive lines. He always was putting pressure on Kirk Cousins. In the secondary is just very, very good. So the Steelers on defense, nothing has changed. The offense is just a little bit interesting. We'll see how Justin Fields actually kind of adapts over time. He rushed for 57 yards, so pretty dang good. So we'll see how it goes over time. Kirk Cousins. Man, I watched a BDG video, and shout out to these guys, they're awesome. Yeah, Kirk Cousins is not the same anymore. I think we have witnessed a Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan type drop off, and this is sad because it's with the Falcons. Because and we'll see after like 4 or 5 weeks if he doesn't get hurt more or doesn't get banged up, if his mobility can increase. But he is literally just standing. And I didn't realize it when I was watching the games like kind of as it goes. I didn't watch the full game for this one, but like I tuned in and out and I watched highlights afterwards. When you really pay attention to it, he did not move at all. He just snapped under shotgun, snapped the ball, got it in his hands, stayed there, kind of moved and shifted his body, but not his legs. And that worries me for his just overall protection, because his O-line was fine, but not great. Outside of that, he utilized the run, all of his weapons pretty well. Bijan got love. Kyle Pitts got love. Drake London got love. Darnell Mooney, I thought he would get more love in this game, but we'll see over time if he actually becomes a component of this offense. Kyle Pitts, though, good to see you get a touchdown at the very least. Defensively, they're fine. Again, there's nothing notable from that because the Steelers are the Steelers offense, so I'm not really expecting much from the Steelers. Still on par to go 9-8. Falcons, I'm not quite like in dire like emergency button press, but if they don't go even in the next the four first games, then that might be a little worrisome outcome. Texans, Colts, honestly, so Texans, I think we expected from them. The interesting part about them is going to be the receivers and how that kind of split out. CJ Stroud looks amazing, looks great. Honestly, this kind of puts down any doubts about the sophomore slump. It looks just fine. Joe Mixon, go figure. Joe Mixon's good. Who would have thought? Everybody doubted because he went to another team, and is he like the least utilized weapon on the team? No, he turns out he gets 159 yards and a touchdown, so pretty damn good. In terms of receptions, Nico Collins is the clear number one, clear favorite target by a long shot. Honestly, in hindsight, how could everybody think any differently? Tank Dell, he was there. He featured a lot. But here's what's weird about Tank Dell. Nico Collins is the main number one receiver, probably going to receive a lot of the targets, etc. Stephon Diggs is just that brilliant long-term, in the end zone, he's going to catch it, he's going to get the job done type of receiver. Tank Dell's like a slot guy. And so how often does Tank Dell is going to fit in this? I'm not too sure, especially when you have Dalton Schultz, especially when you have Joe Mixon, when you can run the ball and chuck down. Tank Dell's in the position where he splits the most carries. Stephon Diggs has a very clear role. He's not there for yards, he's there for getting you first downs, getting you into the end zone, that's it. Nico Collins is there for the yards, there for kind of the good 15, 10-yard gains, that type of deal. Tank Dell's is in that weird spot where he is competing for a little bit more, and he's not getting all the love. So I'm curious how Tank Dell in the long term will fix this. I'm sure he will get more involved. It's just a little bit more worrisome for me right now. Defensively, very good. Honestly, no doubts. Nothing like that popped out in my mind like, okay, this is something notable. They have very good forward progression. Anthony Richardson, I tell you what, that fucking guy can heave a ball. He can't fucking complete a pass or do anything other than run and heave a ball. But man, he can throw it. I'll give him that. I wasn't impressed. I wasn't unimpressed. I wasn't impressed with Anthony Richardson. I think that his pocket presence and that his pocket IQ is very impressive. I think his quarterback ability has some working to do. Jonathan Taylor, unfortunately, didn't have a very good game. The Texans were on him like nothing else. Alec Pierce, again, was like the main component of catching those long passes. Other than that, I think Anthony Richardson will get better slowly, but seeing this, it makes me think that he's going to be a very one-dimensional quarterback if he doesn't change up his game. He's very run-heavy, and he will chuck through some people, and it's very impressive, very good. But is it sustainable? That's kind of the big thing for me. So I hope so, but moving on. Defense for the Colts, nothing really notable. I'm not going to talk about that. Both teams are very, very good playoff contenders. Cardinals, Bills, number one, Cardinals look fucking good. Against the Bills defense, which I know is weakened, but it's not the worst defense in the league. So good on the Cardinals for looking as good as they did. We'll talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., I get it. The Bills, I think this also showed that they had the decline that I worried, they're showing signs of the decline that I worried about, but they're still the offense that we know. So there may still be a window there for them to open it back up. So let's start with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray looks good, like it. Overall, very, very good start of the season. I like it. James Conner is the clear guy there. Love it. He's still reliable at the very least. Receiving wise, Trey McBride seems to be the main target. Greg Dortch did get a lot of love this game though, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't get involved. Obviously, I think this is going to ramp up as the season goes on. I think the play style and play game for this didn't just pan out the way they needed to for Marvin Harrison. So I'm not really worried about his future. I think he's going to be just fine. But Trey McBride may actually eclipse him as the main target. I'm not too sure. That will yet to be seen. Defensively, Cardinals are still... The offense increased a lot better. The defense didn't. At least not in this first game. So we'll see. Josh Allen, he'll heave the ball, rush for a lot. James Cook was dominating the defensive line of the Cardinals. I shouldn't say dominating, but he was getting 4 or 5 consistently. Ray Davis actually got a little bit of love too. So we'll see how that turns out. Keon Coleman, My prediction about him seems like he's the #1 receiver there. Khalil Shakir gets those longer passes, gets a little bit of love too. So that's good. Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid. Unfortunately, didn't get involved, but again, I think they're going to be an important part of the game plan. It's just going to be a future thing. Again, Greg Rousseau pretty much seems to be the main guy here, getting the pressures. Von Miller actually looked pretty dang good too. The secondary is where I'm a little worried about the Bills in the long term, but Bills still very much a contender. And honestly, Cardinals might be a sleepy wild card. Fuck. Okay, so this is actually a really fucking shitty game because both these teams showed me that they are still bottom 5. And you say that like, oh my gosh, the Bears put up 24. Yeah, their defense put up 24. Their special teams put up 24. Will Levis looks like shit, like I predicted. Tony Pollard actually looked pretty good. So kind of a little change up there. I like it. I like seeing Tony Pollard do well. Calvin, his draft value, I wasn't going to take him, but whatever. Calvin Ridley looks fine. Looks good. Looks like a fine #1 receiver. Tyler Boyd got a little bit of love. The tight end was schemed around a lot. No surprise there. Defensively, you can just tell it's not the same from last year. Both player-wise and coaching scheme-wise, just not there. Caleb Williams, 93 fucking yards. 93? You couldn't just throw up 156 or something, like 145. Something. They either didn't risk anything or he just was too fucking safe with the ball. I don't know which he's going to be in the long term. Not great. DeAndre Swift was fine, whatever. Don't think he's got great, but fine. DJ Moore seems like he's going to be the main guy in this offense in the long term because Keenan Allen, Odunze, suffering injuries. Cole Kmet is just not as looked upon anymore. Maybe they'll change with the injuries. DeAndre Swift is going to be used a little bit more in the pass game, I'm sure. Defensively, the Bears are fucking awesome. I can't really complain. The Bears are probably going to be a top 5 defense in the league. Maybe 10, but they're going to be awesome. They're going to be awesome, seriously. Secondary, defensive line, coaching scheme, they're going to be good. It's just the offense. The offense scares me so much. That's where their cap is going to be. Jags, Dolphins. Honestly, kind of a sneaky, boring game. Trevor Lawrence didn't do well. The running game was really weird with Tank Bigsby getting a lot more yards than Travis Etienne. I think, Gabe, this is the most interesting receiving core dynamic I've seen. Christian Kirk was the clear #1 guy going into the season. Now Gabe Davis is getting a lot of love. Brian Thomas Jr. is getting that, a lot more look down passes down the field. This might be a Brian Thomas Jr. offense in the long term. I still think Christian Kirk in the next 2 to 9 weeks will probably receive the most receptions and probably end up with more yards or touchdowns. But Brian Thomas Jr. could kind of start eclipsing that. I think Gabe Davis and him will start splitting a little bit more, and we'll see a more even kind of threshold there. Evan Ingram will get a couple more passes throughout the games. So there's nothing I'm really worried about with this offense. Looks fine. Trevor Lawrence just needs to get more comfortable and develop. I don't know if actually develop now because it's 4th year. I don't know. The Jags defense actually looked pretty good against a explosive Dolphins offense. Tua, he just throws up the fucking Tyreek and Jaden Waddle. This is inflated as hell because Tyreek Hill had like an 80-yard pass catch, so whatever. The run game of this team is both concerning and interesting. Jeff Wilson, Devon Achane were the 2 main guys with their being more youthful. Raheem Mostert seems to be phased out, and that's what I kind of thought about. That's why I really thought Raheem Mostert was not going to be as much of a viable option in this offense anymore. Devon Achane is the clear guy here. He's in the passing game. He's in the running game. He's there. Tyreek Hill obviously again inflated stats. Jalen Waddle I think even had a pretty good catch. Other than that, pretty one-dimensional. But at the very least, with them having Raheem Mostert, this offense is becoming more dynamic. Jonnu Smith added a little bit more of a dynamic. This offense, in terms of weapons, is a lot more spread out, and I like that. So very, very good here. Defensively, Dolphins actually did pretty decently well. So I'm excited to see how this team can actually do, especially without not them being like putting up 50 points or trying to put up 35 or something like that. So I'm very curious, and the Dolphins actually have piqued my curiosity. Jags will probably be a 7-10, 8-9 team. Hard game to watch. Broncos, Bo Nix, just not a very good game. Not a very good scheme around. They really didn't trust him with the ball any. He rushed for a little bit. Jaleel McLaughlin was the clear #1 here today. Javonte kind of was trying to punch it in, but never really tried. Everybody was getting love here. Cortland Sutton apparently had 12 targets and only caught 4 of them. Slightly due to Bo Nix, slightly due to Cortland Sutton. Both sucked. Josh Reynolds and Devon Veely were the 2 main guys in receiving, so pretty cool. Defensively, they were suffocating enough, but long term you could tell it's just not the same as a year ago or 2 years ago. Geno Smith, is this man like Is this man good? Is this man not good? I don't know. Because like 2 years ago, he's good. Last year, he's not good. This year, is Geno back? I don't know. We'll see. Kenneth Walker, beast. He was running all over our defense. Not even going to comment on that. Kenneth Walker's a beast. And the offensive line for this team actually is a lot better than I thought. Or I shouldn't say a lot better, but better than I thought. Tyler Lockett, due to JSN's limitations here, got a lot more love. T-Gay was patted down by StraightA. He never got anything. StraightA was on him like a dog. So Tyler Lockett had open because there's a huge drop off in both the receiver talent after DK. Honestly, there's not even a huge one, and the cornerback talent from the Broncos. So very curious. Seahawks, honestly, defensively, just again efficient. I don't want to say they did anything splashy, but they were just efficient. Raiders, Chargers. Number one, Raiders offense sucks. I know it's impressive numbers. It's not very good. Zamir White wasn't very good. Alexander Madison looked better, and that's not good. Jacoby Myers played well. Devontae Adams was obviously a target. Brock Bowers was a lot more involved than I thought he would be. So awesome to see there. Alexander Madison also caught for a decent bit, so he might be a viable option in fantasy football if you're looking. Defensively, Raiders honestly not as good. I thought their defense would look a lot better here. Justin Herbert. I think this offense has shown that for one, I think this defense is already naturally good and was elevated due to Harbaugh being brought. I almost said John, but Jim Harbaugh being brought in. I think that Justin Herbert's incline as a quarterback will increase as the season goes on because of the development of his receivers. That's kind of my big takeaway here. Ladd McConkey, I think, will be a very good option for him. Joshua Palmer, I think, will get more involved. And Quentin Johnson has the at least capabilities of becoming a very good, viable receiver. The rushing game is a very cool story here because J.K. Dobbins, I'd be very fucking surprised if he was not like a 67-33 back in the next couple of games because Gus Edwards did not look good at all. J.K. Dobbins, explosive as hell. So I think Dobbins will get a lot more love in the future, and as he should. Defensively, again, nothing too new on the Chargers front. I think Chargers look very good. Honestly, have kind of support my thought process of Chargers are actually going to be second in that division this year. Cowboys and Browns, honestly, this is a very typical game. Dak Prescott was good. He wasn't as efficient, though. He wasn't pass-heavy in terms of, he didn't put up a bunch of yards. They really relied on Zeke, Rico Dowdle, CeeDee Lamb in the rush game a little bit, and just shorter, more efficient passes to Ferguson, and even CeeDee Lamb in cases. So very, very curious. CeeDee Lamb still the main target there, obviously. Brandon Cooks, though, had some impressive routes, so very good. Jake Ferguson hurt for now, so hopefully he comes back soon and healthy. Defense is great from the Cowboys. Anything less, who would have thought? Deshaun Watson, shit. Go figure. This has not changed the last 2 years that we have talked about him. This running offense is going to be very concerning, even with Nick Chubb back. Jerome Ford is fine. He's a good, reliable back. Nick Chubb, with an injury, could help replace that a little bit, but are we very sure? Not too sure. David Njoku was the main target because guess what? He's the guy who always gets open. Jerry Jeudy got the touchdown pass. Cool. Mari Cooper, unfortunately, just didn't get the looks of this game. Browns defense, though, was pretty good and honestly was probably a factor to why the Cowboys had to change up their play a little bit, so that's good. Very good to see from the Browns there. And we are wrapping up the 30 minutes here, so I'm going to try to go quick. Commanders, Tampa Bay. Actually, I do want to talk about this one for a bit. Jaden Daniel probably was the best rookie quarterback of the week, right? Because, you got Bo Nix, you got Caleb Williams, Drake May didn't play, JJ McCarthy's out, and who was the other starter? Michael Penix was behind Kirk Cousins. So he's the only one of three, I guess, but it's not even because of his passing. His passing was fine. I don't think it was anything special. Didn't think it was anything good. He just was good in the pocket. He didn't make stupid decisions, which I think a lot of rookie quarterbacks fall into, especially of the scrambling type. And he was an Anthony Richardson type rusher without being as risky as Anthony Richardson. I think that's going to bode him very well in this first season. Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler. We'll see how this turns out, but whatever. Austin Eckler was more involved in the pass game and might as well be the number one receiver. Honestly, Scary Terry, you would think he's a wide receiver 3 after Zach Ertz and Brian Robinson Jr. Austin Eckler. Even Brian Robinson Jr., I guess. So we'll see how much he actually utilizes receivers in the future. Defensively, Commanders look fine. I don't think there's anything there. Bucks fucking cooked. Baker's great. I was so happy the Baker did well. The run game here is going to be very interesting in the long term because how is Rachaad White going to pan out with Bucky Irving being more efficient? Bucky Irving did come more at the end of the game with garbage time, so I'm curious how much that actually is going to affect his stock. We'll see. Is all I'll see. I need more of a sample size before I comment too much here. Chris Godwin, got a lot of love. Mike Evans, got a lot of love. Love seeing these two receivers go off. Music to my ears. Defense for the Bucks, just efficient, good. Like did what they needed to, put pressure, and swatted down passes, kept people covered. Very efficient, did what they needed to do. Nothing to point out there. Rams, Detroit Lions, very fun, very exciting. Not in the way of you would think of high scoring, boom, boom, back, but just like almost meticulous in a way. Sean McVay and Dan Campbell, were just playing like a chess game, and that was really awesome to see. Matthew Stafford really relied on some heavier pass games to Cooper Kupp and Puka. Cooper Kupp lit it up. He is the number one guy there. Honestly, I don't know how any of us doubted with Puka. I know he did really well his first season, but man, Cooper Kupp looked great. Puka, of course, has an injury, so hopefully he rests up and does well. Kyron Williams, he's the clear back. There's no sign of Blake Corum, not even in sight. So we'll see how the receivers actually pan out. I think Demarcus Robinson will get a little bit more love as Puka's healing up, and Puka will come back and get the yardage he needs. Cooper Kupp is just going to be the beast because he is one of the better receivers in the league right now. So take that as you will. Defense from the Rams looked better than I thought, but you could tell there's still a lot of weakness there. So I'm excited to see the Rams in the future. Jared Goff and the Lions, I think, have just have a strategy in mind. They're going to go throughout the season against certain teams, and Jared Goff will be involved. I think in other games where they can abuse the secondary and where they're playing better teams where he has to pass a little bit more. So this is very good, very fine passing record here. But, I mean, their story is going to be David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They are so good together. One drive to another. They're both fresh when they do it. They both get a good amount of carries. Nothing surprising there. Jamison Williams, is this finally his breakout year after the first year of hiatus stuff? Second year wasn't being heavily utilized. Could Jamison Williams actually do something? Could be. Sam Laporta, I think, will be still very efficient as well once Jared Goff gets more involved. And Amon St. Brown, not worried about him. He'll get more love. Defense from the Lions, good. I think this is less than I expected, but also it's the first game, so I'm not too worried because they showed flashes of what they can do, but not overly impressed. I actually didn't catch too much of this game, of this one, but I did watch the highlights for this. Number one, the first two quarters, roughly, made me so happy to see Aaron Rodgers back. It just was good seeing him play Colin, doing such efficient things. He got the IQ there. Obviously, he's Aaron Rodgers. I just don't know if he has his full physical capabilities back yet, but you definitely could tell he's there mentally. He could go for another couple seasons. It's just whether his body, his arm can all kind of compile back together. Breece Hall, good. He's going to be very utilized in this offense. Allen Lazard was the main target here, I think, and Garrett Wilson was just kind of involved. But Allen Lazard, interestingly enough, more people will get involved as time goes on, but Garrett Wilson seems to be probably still the main guy as time goes on, but Allen Lazard could be kind of in that game. Allen Lazard is one of historically Aaron Rodgers' favorite targets, so we'll see, or at least most consistent targets. We'll go with that. Defense from the Jets and defense from the 49ers, no surprise here. It's harder for the Jets because the offense for the 49ers is so fucking good. I won't even blame the Jets defense and give them a break after this because the 49ers offense is just so fucking good. Jets defense actually at first held out pretty well, then just slowly declined as the game got away from them. Brock Purdy things, nothing too big. Jordan Mason replacing Christian McCaffrey. It must just be the fucking run game of the 49ers offense. I don't know. Jordan Mason did amazing. Maybe he's the next Christian McCaffrey or something. Or maybe it's just the run game of this team. Who knows? Receiving, kind of a lot of love to everybody. Juwan Jennings got a lot more love this year. So good to see. Brandon Ayuk, of course, was on a snap count, so he'll get more involved. So probably will dip down to Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Juwan. But George Kittle getting more efficient in a gradual involvement, so I like that. Defensively, again, it doesn't show much in terms of like sacks or interceptions, but they were on Aaron Rodgers like nothing else. Aaron Rodgers was smart and played very smart into them, but he just got a lot of 3rd and outs or 3 and outs. So unfortunate, but both these teams, I'm very interested to see how these teams go forward. Same with the Rams, Lions, Cowboys, Browns. I think sub contenders there. Bucks could very much show out this year, and Commanders. Fortunately, I think they'll be one of the better worst teams, or maybe in that second tier of like their 6-11 type teams. We'll see. Hope you all enjoyed the video. I know it's a little bit longer one, but I like recapping, especially for this first week. There's a lot to talk about what our expectations going into it was. And as we get more of a pattern going on, these videos will get shorter and shorter as time goes on. Now I'm going to go ahead and prep for my fantasy football teams. Was already looking at the waivers and seeing if there's anybody worth picking up. Turn into our fantasy football video later this week, probably two days from now, to get more action. So see you guys later. Peace out.